is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the iRacing V8 Supercar Official Series, round number 1 of Season 1 2019. My name is Zach Hanlon. Joining me in the commentary booth on SimSpeed TV tonight is David Haynes, and we are very excited to be joining you from the Mecca of Australian motorsport, Mount Panorama, Bathurst. We will be here tonight for 33 grueling laps for all of our competitors here this evening, of which we have 31 on file to take us through this extraordinarily long race this evening, which will see us past the hour mark this evening. And David, we've already seen the track temperatures starting around a little bit in this early morning session. And with these guys not quite used to possibly racing in these dynamic weather conditions with the new day-night feature on iRacing, do you think this could really throw things up in the air for a couple of the drivers in such a long race this afternoon?
Definitely could. It's partly cloudy weather conditions out there, means that sometimes there'll be direct sun on the circuit, heating up all of that black asphalt. Sometimes there'll be some cloud cover, a little bit of breeze out there, 16 kilometers an hour, can cool it off pretty quickly, and also the heat soaks into the ground. So the track temperature can swing pretty rapidly, and we know that has a very, very significant effect on how much grip is available to these drivers, and that has an effect on the balance of the car as well.
Absolutely. Now, luckily for the drivers, as we just see Scott Solosky on screen, unfortunately take a hit into the dipper there, and he's ruined his second lap there. But we have seen the track temperature starting around just a little bit, not too much. So I feel that all of our competitors this evening should get roughly the same conditions for their laps here this afternoon. At the moment, we have Sam Sutton on top of the leaderboard. He's got Thomas McMillan just behind him, and Wayne Burke as well, who has just swapped over to One Performance Racing from Synergy Sim Racing. He puts himself up into position number 3 at the moment. Corey Preston's just popped himself up into 4th position, but we've got some really big names in here this afternoon or this evening, and it's going to be really difficult to see who might take this one out. We've got the likes of Sam Sutton, Wayne Burke, Corey Preston, Jackson Suslin-Harlow. We've also got Ian Ford, Dane Warren, and returning champion Marlon J. McMullen as well in the field, although much further down than we would probably expect him at the moment. And Dane Warren, just as I say his name, Mr. Fast himself, he's got himself a seat in a F4 test day. Does Mr. Dane Warren after winning the VSR Championship earlier this year. And at the moment, he's showing to continue speed as he's popped himself on the top of the leaderboard. At the moment, Ian Ford comes across the line, and unfortunately not quite enough for him, but he still puts himself up into 5th position, which is definitely a good starting position for this very long race. And we will take you through our grid now, ladies and gentlemen, as qualifying has just concluded. Dane Warren gets in there at the last moment with a 2:04.2 and will lead away from pole position this evening. He'll be joined on the front row by Sam Sutton from TTL Esports. Brady Myers and Thomas McMillan will make up row number 2. They'll be joined closely by Ian Ford and Wayne Burke on row number 3. Corey Preston will start out of position number 7, and Jackson Suslin-Harlow will start from position number 8. That's a very feisty row back there as well. Brett Loxton, he's going to be looking to better his performance of second in the championship last season up into 1st. Hopefully, he's going to have to claw his way back from 9th at the moment. And Jordan Ross rounds out the top. Then we have Michael Cracknell in position number 11. Kyle Stokes starts from 12th. Brett Cananzi, a local drifter, in 13th position. Daniel Williams, a nice job from him up into Brian Borg, another man who has changed teams to Pursuit Sim Racing, starts from 15th. Marlon J. McMullen will start from 16th position. Scott Solosky from 17th. Chris Coxhead and Riley from 19th. Those guys have gotten together before, and that should be a good throw in. Zach Baker, and that's going to be a good race down in the lower midfield there. Craig Jones, Benjamin Smith, 21st and 22nd. Brenton O'Brien in 23rd. Guy Leach starts from 24th position. And to round out our grid, this Jamie McKnight, 25th. Greg Sharp, 26th. Starting a lot lower than I'm sure he would be hoping, but very much back from 27th, I'm sure. 28th goes to Brendan Jackson. James Duckworth, another man we've seen charging through the field previously, starts from 29th, so some work to do for him. And David Miller round out this 31 car field as they stare to Hell Corner, one of the most difficult corners on this course, and it is the first one. And the man who is going to have it all to do is Dane Warren. Sam just behind here, up here at Mount Panorama, and we are going for round 1, season 2019, and it is go, and away goes Dane Warren. Good start for him on the inside line. Sam Sutton, also a good start, but not quite enough to get alongside him. Brady Myers does a good job to get past Thomas McMillan as they come through turn number 1. Pretty clean as they start coming down mountain straight now, and couple of guys going 2 wide, 3 wide back there, keeping it fairly clean for the time being. Dane Warren just going on the defensive there as they come into turn number 1, and a couple of more cars there going 2 by 2. But everyone doing a very nice job to get through here nice and cleanly, which is what we like to see. 60-minute plus race this evening, so they've got plenty of time to sort themselves later on. A little bit of contact just coming up through the car from some cars in the midfield there. I think Chris Coxhead just getting very close to the rear of Scott Solosky there, managing to keep it all together though, and starting to just sort themselves out single file now as they come over the top of the mountain and down into Skyline. Here comes Dane Warren down through the S's, one of the most scary places you could possibly go through, especially in a V8 supercar, because those things are just dancing all the way through there. And look at that shot What a great shot of all those cars coming through Skyline there, and now down into Forest Elbow. Dane's got a little bit of a breather here. Man that doesn't have a breather is Brady Myers there. He's got Thomas McMillan right behind him. We can see all these cars filing through very nicely. So great job from the field here to get away nice and cleanly. And Dane's got a nice little getaway here. So see if he's going to be able to continue to put on the performance that we've seen him put on so routinely in this series, which is just to stay out in the front. As long as he can keep that pit strategy. Oh, Loxton getting a little bit locked up on the rear brakes there as he comes down through the chase and manages to keep it all together though. Brett Loxton, we've seen have some pretty wayward moments throughout his time, but usually he manages to keep it all together. He's tucked up right now behind Corey Preston. He's got Jordan Ross just in behind him as well. And that's a spicy little pack there. Quite a few great packs. We've got some excellent drivers in the field this evening. And man, that hasn't moved as much as I would have expected. Ian Ford still going well in fifth, hasn't moved up or down, but still keeping it nice and close to that lead pack ahead. Looks like Wayne Burke just behind him, just starting to fall off that pack a little bit, but still keeping in touch and going to be getting that draft as they come down Conrod Straight.
Yeah, everyone's staying mostly in the order that they qualified. The couple little losers through the first quarter or first lap. Jackson Susan Harlow recently with TTL Esports dropped 2 positions on the first lap. We saw Zach Baker get all the way out on the grass for ZB Racing on the first lap as well. So he's down 3 positions. But other than that, a lot of the field staying in line and in the order that they qualify. Just shows how close and how evenly matched this field is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think Jackson Suslan Harlow is really looks like he's the only man who's really suffered, other than Zach Baker, as you said, who has fallen a couple of positions, but everyone else has kept it pretty tight. You can see on screen now, Thomas McMillan getting very close to the wall on the exit there as he's trying to hunt down Brady Myers, and he's been hanging on to the back of that car very closely since the beginning of the race, and looks like he wants to get that All-Star Motorsports car past. Great looking car this evening in that very plain, just black and white livery. Very nice looking car, and not unfortunately enough to move Brady Myers out of the way, who we saw nearly won a race here a couple of seasons ago, but he was in the lead doing well. I think it was about 5 or 6 laps left, and he or maybe 8 or so, and he unfortunately blew the engine on that occasion. He's still got a couple of positions, but he does have a teammate up ahead of him, so might be able to work his way from that final position on the podium up to the top. McMillan just getting a little bit sideways on the exit as he clips a little bit of dirt coming down Mountain Straight off Hell Corner now, and Dane Warren has a 1 second advantage out at the front of this field. The next 4 cars are all separated by just 1.2 seconds, so he's really got a nice little lead here. But Ian Ford's another man who's looking pretty fast and looking like he wants to make his way through this top 3 or 4 cars here.
Definitely poking the nose out half a car width to the inside, letting Thomas McMillan in front know that he's there, showing him that Speed Cafe logo on the bonnet as well. And they are all staying in line, and they may well do for some time until either the tyres start wearing down or there is a very wide pit stop window for this race. Some of these guys might feel like they're being held up, might try and come in a little bit earlier. We probably won't see that for at least another 10 laps.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's actually a fuel restriction on the race this evening, so these guys are going to be able to run extremely deep into this race. So I think it'll really come down to when these guys want to take some tyre and use that up. We have noticed the track temperature starting to notch up. Now this track, we will talk a little bit about this new timing and day-night feature that iRacing have introduced, because it's absolutely game-changing in the way that we run these races now. As we just watched Zach Baker having a little bit of a move on Brenton O'Brien, but the track temperature has already risen 3 degrees, and Zach Baker now just pulling out onto the inside there. He's going to go for a move through the chase here, see if he can stick it out. Brenton O'Brien going to hold it tough round the outside there and keep the inside line. Zach Baker late on the brakes, almost giving Brenton O'Brien a little bit of a rub there, but they stay as they are. Now, this race started at local time in the server was 7:37 a.m. I think the race started 8 minutes ago. It's now 7:58, so 7:50 in the morning in this race, ladies and gentlemen. So as I'm sure you can imagine, we're expecting it to get just a little bit hotter as that morning sun starts to rise and starts to bake the track a little more. Now, we will have cloud cover coming over and possibly interfering with that as well, but up 3 degrees track already since the guys entered the server. So it's definitely going to be something to monitor, and it's something these guys are going to have to be thinking about when they do consider pit strategy and when they're going to come in and get the tire, because the way that the tyres react in this first half of the stint as the track temperature gets higher doesn't necessarily translate to how the second stint might feel, as the temperatures rise, David.
Exactly, and a little bit of cloud cover temporarily reducing the track temperatures could potentially supercharge an undercut if someone managed to win that little lottery, get some very quick lap times in on new tyres in a cool track, if indeed the sun is maybe for just 5 minutes blocked by some cloud. All kinds of things could happen out of the control and out of the prediction of these drivers and teams. The drivers have to be adaptable, and they have to just drive to what's underneath them and what the weather brings.
Yeah, that's actually a great point you make, David, about the undercut there, and I know I've even been doing a few races this week, and even noticed that in the qualifying sessions, sometimes you can have cloud cover come across, and your first lap and your second lap can be completely different. So it really is going to throw, hopefully, a little bit of a mix into this race for us this evening. Although at the moment, there are some little packs starting to form, and everyone's looking pretty good at the moment. We can see on our timing here. Oh, and we've got a car off there. I think that was Scott Solosky, who just managed to just ran a little bit deep into the chase there, and is now going to be passed by Chris Coxhead. And hopefully he's been able to clear that slowdown all the way. We will see as they come down the straight here. Riley Blythe in there as well. Brett Cananzi now being overtaken by, that's Brian Borg there. So nice job from Brian Borg, and Mullen McMullen might actually try and capitalise out of this as well as they come down into turn number 2 here. He's going to have to go round the outside though, unless he can really pull up that Holden Commodore a little bit further along. Very late on the brakes, taking the wide line very hard out on that outside line there, and unfortunately Marlon McMullen, previous series champion here, not able to get it done. Chris Coxhead has to let one go to Solosky, and Riley Blythe looking to capitalise out of that. Can't make anything happen though, and that's Craig Jones just sitting in behind those guys as well. So these are all guys we would expect normally to be fighting up a little further in the field, which just really goes to show you this is currently the battle for 18th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th for these guys. So that just goes to show you the fantastic strength that we have in the field this evening. Only a 3,600 strength of field, but I do have to say that feels a little bit undervalued given the quality of drivers that we have in the field this evening. And Brett Cananzi just looking to struggle a little bit with his car at the moment, just falling off Brian Borg already. And just having a look further up the field, looks like Corey Preston and Brett Loxton having a go there, and Thomas McMillan and Brady Myers also coming very close. Corey Preston gets overtaken by Loxton around the outside. That's a fantastic move there, I believe, from Brett Loxton. So great job from him to get that move done. McMillan still having a look here on Brady Myers. Just can't quite get close enough, though, to make anything happen there. But that All-Stars Motorsports car definitely looking very strong, and be interesting to see what happens if he can get himself into a little bit of a TTL sandwich here.
Yeah, indeed. He's looking this way, that way, trying to find an advantage somewhere. But Brett Loxton, a little bit further back, is now up 2 positions. So that's one of the better movers in the top part of the pack there. And all the cars getting a little bit further spaced out, but still relatively close together, as one of the TTL cars has a solid wiggle through Griffin's Bend.
Yeah, it looks like we've only got really a couple of cars in no man's land. I think Kyle Stokes is a little bit out on his own, but We've still got a car just a second or so up the road as we've got a slow car there. That was Craig Jones, or I think Solosky just got passed by Jones there. So something's happened to Solosky again because he was ahead of Coxhead and Blythe. And he's you can see with the aggression that he's taking through that car, he seems very frustrated. Just carrying a little bit too much speed over the top of the mountain there and losing some time to Jones just ahead of him.
Look at the balance on that car for Solosky though. He locked up the rears earlier into the chase. That's what initially lost him the position to I want to say Chris Coxhead, and now we saw the tails wagging on throttle as well, so something with the balance of that car for Scott Kozlowski not quite working out for him in the early phase.
Yeah, he might have to start playing around with those bars a little bit and just get himself a little bit more comfortable in that car, because we are only 15 minutes into this race, 6 laps out of 33. So still a very long way to go for Scott Solosky, and he'll want to make sure that he's keeping nice and cool and comfortable behind the wheel of that All-Star Motorsports car. A man who is looking pretty cool, but maybe a little bit fiery up the front. Thomas McMillan still struggling to find a way past these TTL cars ahead of him. Ian Ford had dropped off just a little bit that last lap. He's managed to claw it back this time around, and he's pulled back a 10th on those guys. So a little bit of ebb and flow between these guys as we talk about so often. All these cars, different guys and different teams, like cars set up differently. So we're going to see cars losing and gaining time on different areas of the track. And looks like Ian Ford is really strong down the straights and in the second half of the lap, where he's able to claw it back. Over the top of the mountain, though, I have noticed him just starting to fall a little bit behind. We're on board now with Ian Ford as we see Scott Solosky getting very close to the outside wall on the entry into the cutting there. But Ian Ford just over the top of this mountain section here, you can just see the car just starting to fall away just a little bit from the guys up ahead. But as he starts coming down the mountain and down the straight sections of the track, he really does start to claw that gap way back in. And Ian Ford is obviously an extremely experienced driver in these V8 Supercars, and he might be doing a little bit of fuel saving as well, try and go on a bit of a different strategy here. We have seen Ian do some pretty fantastic work with fuel numbers previously, and wouldn't be surprised to see him work with something like that again. He's managed to keep it pretty close over the top of the mountain this time, though, as just got an onboard here with Brady Myers looking back at Thomas McMillan, because McMillan's pretty close, and he's been very close lap after lap. But luckily for Brady, he's got Sutton ahead of him, who's not only his teammate, but also giving him a little bit of a tow, which is just slightly hindering the progress of McMillan. But McMillan's going to go down the inside on this attempt. Not quite. Very, very almost thought he was going to go for it there. He was very nosy. Didn't quite go for the move, though. And, Susan Harlow getting a little bit of a bump there from, I believe that's Michael Cracknell. So a little bit of biffo between those guys, and Kyle Stokes, I think, just around those guys as well. They've got a bit of a battle pack happening behind them as well. I think that's Brian Borg chasing down Daniel Williams as they come down into Hell Corner. Cananzi and McMullen just behind them. Now McMullen is not doing particularly well at the moment. McMillan and Ford side by side. So McMillan's had a bit of a mistake here, and Ian Ford going round the outside, and you can see just once you get in that off camber section of the outside at turn number 2 there, it just really kills your momentum. And unfortunately, Ian Ford not able to make that work as he had the run on McMillan there. So McMillan now with a little bit of work to do to get himself back up to those TTL guys. Dane Warren has slowly just been eking out that advantage. Just 1.7 seconds is the gap at the front of the race now, but he's just been doing an absolutely astute job to pull away from the field as it stands.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned maybe Ian Ford's trying to do something with the fuel numbers, and we expect that these guys will have to take about 55 litres of fuel at their pit stop to get to the end. They fill at about 3 or some litres per second. So if he could save 5-6 litres, be a big ask, but it would save him 2 seconds at his pit stop potentially. With how closely bunched they are, a little bit of an undercut, a little bit of pit lane advantage could potentially go 2 or 3 positions.
That's right, and if he comes in a little bit early as well, get some fresh tyres quicker, that could also help him make even more of an undercut there, as we've seen a lot throughout this series. Once you get that fresh rubber on, you can typically pick up a couple of seconds in lap time on some occasions, and around Mount Panorama on... Loxton's had a bit of a lock up there and runs wide and through the chase there. He's going to have to clear that slowdown and has lost a bunch of positions. Looks like he's lost out to Jordan Ross and Corey Preston there, and he might even lose out as well to Cracknell. So Cracknell's gotten through, and Michael Cracknell actually doing a fantastic job in this race right now.
Harlow has his elbows out there with Kyle Stokes though, and big lock-up, still turns it into Sizzlin Harlow, and they're door-to-door there, Zach.
Yeah, very nicely done there from Sizzlin Harlow, picking it all up, and Brian Borg in the background as well, just getting a little bit of a slide on as he was trying to come up alongside, I think that's Daniel Williams there. So, and here we go, Jordan Ross and Corey Preston side by side. Through turn number 2, Corey Preston has to take the wide line, and that is position done for Jordan Ross as they come up through the cutting now. So nice job there by the Synergy Sim Racer, and he'll see if he can now move him up to his old teammate Wayne Burke and try and latch himself onto the back of that train up the front there. He's got a little bit of a gap to make up though, about 3 seconds. But we're just noticing that McMillan is now starting to just fall off the back of these 2 TTL cars now. Track temperature has come up once again to 28 degrees. So definitely some strain starting to go through these tires now, and I wonder if oh my goodness, that's a huge move, and that's going to be an accident. Surely not. Oh my goodness, Daniel Williams there pulling out everything he had to get that car stopped as Brian Borg went for a lunge through the skyline, and I have to say, Daniel Williams, 11 out of 10. Well done, sir. That was amazing. I thought you were going into the wall for sure there. We'll get a replay of that for you, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness. And we can see coming up the hill here was very close. Brian Borg very close to the back of him here. And Daniel must have just lost a little bit of time through these 2 left-handers here. So look pretty good through there. Maybe a little bit loose on the entry there. Just ran wide of the apex, and there we go, off the track. And well, Brian Borg kind of didn't have anywhere to go really, and just managed to pick it up. And wow, Daniel Williams, great car control, albeit a little bit sketchy, kept it on the tarmac, and a very nice job. Just loses 1 position. But back to the live action for you. Oh, there's an accident in the field, in the back of the pack. I'll just see if I think that's Brett Cananzi and Riley Blythe have come together at turn number 1. And see if we can get oh my god, and there's a car just gone off behind them as well. I think that's Greg Sharp in the Stealth Simforce car. Has seen that checkup and gone, what the hell, and lost his concentration for a moment. So looks like Riley Blythe got a bit of an over-under there as they came out of Murray's corner. Oh, and just started to come across the back. So that happened well before the corner. And yeah, leave that. I'll probably have to have another look at that to make a call, but we'll leave that one for you, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of a bump and rub coming down the straight there. And we'll see this again. So, yeah.
Riley Blythe was really expecting Cananzi to go a little bit further towards the regular racing line. I think Cananzi was then trying to hold Blythe tight towards the inside line to compromise his exit off the corner. And the 2 of them have just met right at the start of the braking zone for turn 1.
Yeah, well, it takes 2 to tango, and sometimes, you know, the minds aren't synced and the feet don't go the right way, but some things do go right for people called Thomas McMillan, as finally he gets up alongside Brady Myers here. He's going to have to tough it out, though. Brady doing a great job to hold on to that position. Ian Ford now looking in the hunt behind. He's got a bit of a run here. Might try to go for the outside. Going to force McMillan to the inside. Ian Ford, will he go for a bit of an over-under here? He's going to just tuck in behind McMillan and let it slide. He doesn't want to succumb to Wayne Burke here, and he also doesn't want to let Sam Sutton get too far away either, because that's really taken these guys off the back of Mr. Sutton there. Wayne, we're on board with Ian Ford now as he looks at the back of the All-Star Motorsports car, and we do have our first pit stop as well. Brett Loxton, a man who wants to try and change things up. He's going to have to go a long way on those tyres. I think he's going to have to go. And forward down the inside now at turn number 2. Down the inside of McMillan, and he makes it stick, and oh my goodness, who is it? It's Mr. Wayne Burke, tries and he makes it through as well. So McMillan, after pushing so hard to get past those TTL cars, can't do it. And the men behind him say, I want to, and now on the exit of the cutting, just gets it all crossed up as he tries to save it. So he's going to have to really concentrate now. And now Ian Ford and Wayne Burke have a bit of an opportunity here to get themselves onto the podium and really push themselves up into a nice position in this race.
Yeah, McMillan was knocking on the door of being on the podium. He's now being shuffled back because he couldn't get the move done on Brady Myers. Now he's lost out to Ian Ford and Wayne Burke. And we watched Brian Borg and Marlon McMullen fighting out 12th place. Yeah,
Brian Borg and Marlon McMullen have been fairly tied up close to each other in this race so far. Not much been really happening between the two of them. More have just been what's going on around them, although McMullen has gotten past David Williams, who Daniel Williams, pardon me, who seems like possibly was a bit of a cork in the bottle for this little train here, because Brian Borg and Marlon McMullen have really started to rocket away from him. And Daniel Williams now just holding up Craig Jones and Chris Coxhead behind as well. So a little bit of work there to do for the series, or the X-Series champion, previous series champion Marlon McMullen. He's in 14th at the moment. So still a bit of work to do. We'll see if we can do anything from the pits there. But as it stands at the moment, got some good little packs. We've got obviously our pack up the front, Brady Myers through to Thomas McMillan, Jordan Ross and Michael Crack and Corey Preston are all fairly well together as well. And Chris Coxhead all the way down through to Guy Leach, all in close contention. And they've got another pack of Brenton O'Brien, Zach Baker, Thomas Hinds, Jamie McKnight, and Brendan Jackson, who are all fairly close as well. And I've got to say, after 11 laps of racing, or 12 now even, well, we are on lap 12, so it has been 11, but the gaps between all of the competitors this evening, not massively, not too out of control, it has to be said. Everyone keeping a good pace, as just seeing, I think that's Craig Jones having to defend there from Scott Solosky in the back of the pack, and he's got a teammate in Benjamin J. Smith just sitting behind them. Guy Leach is also looking pretty feisty as they come up through the cutting here, but Craig Jones definitely seems like he's the man on the back foot. And looks like CMR have got a brand new livery for that car as well. And I have to say, it's a very striking looking livery there. Absolutely fantastic. Always good to see a nice, different and new design out there on the track, and showing off their sponsors very nicely at the moment is Craig Jones as we look up Skyline. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, if you have never been to Bathurst and you have never walked down this section of the track, you have to do it at some point in your life, because you just absolutely will not believe the amount of elevation change that happens through this section of the track. It is just absolutely incredible. And then to try and walk back up, it will be out of breath without a doubt, and your calves will be burning like crazy. Luckily for these gentlemen, though, they have 650 horsepower to propel themselves through, and a man who has propelled himself through to a higher position is Corey Preston, who has managed to get past Jordan Ross, a man who had passed him just previously, and Michael Cracknell also looking very strong on the tail end of these two guys as well. Also got Jackson Suslin Harlow just having a bit of a look there on Kyle Stokes as they come down the main straight as well. Daniel Williams, another man who has opted to come into the pit in his car there. So a couple of cars now have pitted, and I'm actually interested to look at the stats here for Brett Loxton, because he will be coming around very shortly for his first flying lap after making that pit stop, if I'm not mistaken. And it'll be a good indication as to what kind of times these guys will be able to get out of some fresh rubber in this heat. It does have to be said, the lap times, David, haven't really dropped off particularly that much since the beginning of the race.
Yeah, we've got a battle here coming right into the cutting. One of the ASM cars and Leach gotten past CMR. That was Craig Jones, wasn't it? So Benjamin Smith and Guy Leach also getting through. I'm hoping that they're probably wishing that a better livery would give them more speed, but his setups that does that. He gets so wiggly and he's in the wall. A massive hit for Craig Jones. Got very unsettled over the top of the hill there. That was a big hit with the wall, Zach.
Yeah, that looks like oh yeah, that's a very sore looking car. He's going to have a lot of trouble keeping that thing on the track, and I think he would not be surprised to see Craig Jones in the pits at the end of this lap to try and recover a little bit of damage. I suspect that is going to be some suspension braking stuff there. Pretty big hit. We've got a replay on board with Craig Jones for you, ladies and gentlemen. Just got a little bit unsettled on the exit there. Oh! And if that doesn't break a Watts linkage in that car, I'm not sure what will, because that is a big side impact for Craig Jones. You can just see as he comes over this right-hander here, already a little bit taily, but just loses it on that final part of that right-hander there. So very easy to do in one of these V8 Supercars.
Contact the rear of the car into the wall, then pivoted the front in as well. It was almost a two-piece impact, damaging all corners of the right-hand side of the car.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we see him now, indeed, filing himself down onto the pit lane to try and recover some of that damage. Another man in the pit lane, Thomas Hins, who has been quietly plodding away up a few positions so far. And he's going to come in and take service and see if he can make some more progress on that. And still at 28 degrees track temp we are at the moment, and I'm just having a look for old mate Brett Loxton. So Brett's actually had a pretty poor outlap, or sorry, not so much outlap, but his first flying lap after coming out of the pits was not a particularly great one, and he also had a very long pit stop in general. So I think maybe a few issues for Mr. Loxton that he would not be enjoying for sure. Daniel Williams has also pitted, so we'll see. Oh, and Guy Leach has had a moment, I think the same place that Craig Jones just had a moment. We'll get a replay on Cup Price Racing replay for you. So just having a look here, and coming up. Oh, and Mick, oh my goodness. Oh, that's a huge moment. So that's Benjamin J. Smith there, who's actually had a moment coming out on the exit of turn 2, and he's just cleaned up the side of Guy Leach there, which is, oh, look at that, how aggressively that car turned on the curb. And Guy Leach did a great job to keep it all together, but you can tell that car is crabbing like crazy, and he's another man who will, I dare say, be in the pit lane at the end of this lap to once again repair that car. And yeah, he is traveling very slowly, and that car is crabbing like crazy. Brian Borg in the pit lane. I think he is the only person so far this lap to come into the pits. Everyone's still continuing to travel round as we just get to nearly the halfway point of this race now. One more lap and a bit, and we will be at that halfway mark. So we will expect quite a few cars, I imagine, to start coming in and see how they go. But some guys might choose to run it pretty long.
Yeah, that's my thoughts too now I think about it, because the sun keeps getting higher in the sky, track temperature's getting marginally hotter. If you're any of these guys like Brian Ball, Zach Baker and others who pitted earlier, trying to carry your second set of tyres a longer distance, they could absolutely fall away from you as the track continues to heat up compared to someone taking a later pit stop.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And something I've just noticed as well is that the lap times have started to drop off. Just had the mercury tick up another degree, 29 track temperature at the moment, and the lap times are now starting to suffer a little more considerably than they were before. Dane Warren, our race leader, who is just doing a fantastic job up the head of the field right now, with a 3.8 second lead to Sam Sutton behind him. His last lap was a 2:06.2, which was the second fastest lap on the track. His fastest lap was a 2:05.0. So we're now at 1.2 seconds down, and the leader of the race, Dane Warren, is in the pit. So this is really interesting. Just runs a little bit wide through the entry there, and it seems like a few guys are coming in. Ian Ford, Sam Sutton, Wayne Burke decides to stay out. Thomas McMillan in the pit lane as well. So quite a few guys. And Jordan Ross has Jordan Ross has gotten through on Corey Preston, who's gone off the track at Murray's Corner, and that's let, I think that might be Michael Cracknell through as well. So Michael Cracknell doing a great job. We'll just get a replay. He was fighting pretty hard there, I think, with Jordan Ross there with Corey Preston. So we have it on screen for you now, ladies and gentlemen, coming down into Murray's Corner, and he's going to clip the grass on the outside or just run a bit deep. Seems for Corey Preston, just ran a little bit too deep. He might have picked up just a little bit of the grass on the outside there.
All these tricks by Jordan Ross going into the pit entry, that might have just taken his focus away from his braking markers. He might have been thinking about his own pit strategy and then just gone a little bit too deep on the brakes and not been able to get it turned in.
Yeah, absolutely. Something he could have been thinking about. And looks like Ian Ford is a big winner out of the pits. We were talking about him fueling a little bit differently earlier. Now, only a little bit of a different in times for him and Sam Sutton there, but he was about a second faster than race leader Dane Warren. So both of those guys have made up a little bit of an advantage there, and Ian Ford now right on the rear of that TTL Esports car. So he's now probably effectively jumped Brady Myers, and is now moving himself into what I would think is effectively third position now. Not entirely the truth, because something could still happen with Brady. He could pull out some really fantastic next few laps. The track temp could drop, or something, but from general past experience, I would say that at the moment, these guys are fighting for second on the podium at the moment. So Ian Ford has done a great call there to come in with the rest of the guys up ahead of him. And a little bit of a battle here between, I think that is Dane Warren just coming through traffic, actually. So Dane Warren moves himself past Brenton O'Brien, who I'm sure is going to give Dane plenty of racing room and stay out of the way, tuck himself in behind there, and just allow Dane to get on through and get on with the job. So now Brady Myers has come in. Looks like a fairly good in-lap from him, so we'll have to see the pit stop time. Standing time for Ian Ford and Sutton was 21 seconds. So we'll see what Brady Myers does here. And it's 21.4, so pretty much bang on with the other guys. How quickly can he get out of the lane? I don't think it's going to be fast enough. It's going to be very close, though. It's just going to be overspeed, though, for Ian Ford and the preferred line. Brady's going to give him just enough room to get past down Mountain Straight here, and it's not over for Ian Ford, because he might just have to defend a little bit here, or even go for a move on Sam Sutton very late on the brakes. Surely there's contact, and there is just a little bit of a rub, but they keep it all together, and now Brady Myers might have a little bit of a look as Ian Ford just loses a little bit of momentum there, but great job from those two drivers to keep it on the track, and a little bit of a cheeky move there from Ian Ford. Very committed on the brakes there, and just managing for all those guys to keep it together.
Yeah, and I think when he gave Sam Sutton that little tap, he knew that it wasn't going to be a clean move. I think he just backed out of it, just gave Sam Sutton enough room to save that. But the body language of Ian Ford and his car after these pit stops, Sam Sutton goes off wide, and Ian Ford doesn't have enough room to get ahead before they go down the hill. But Sam Sutton's obviously under pressure now from Ian Ford.
You stole the words completely out of my mouth, David. I mean, he is obviously getting into some forced errors here, but luckily he's got his teammate behind him who's also going to be applying some pressure to Ian Ford, who has just not quite done what he needed to do off the Exeter Forest elbow there, which would have been really good for him. But now those three cars are fairly evenly spaced, so it's not going to be too much going on into the chase, I would imagine. But you never know. There's got a little bit of traffic up ahead of them. Brett can just up the road and a couple of other cars that could come into play if they don't pit within the next, or in fact, it's probably just going to be Cananzi. But just noticed as well, one of our main competitors, Jordan Ross, who was sitting and tied the top 5 or close to the top 5 throughout points of this race, is actually out of contention. Not quite sure what happened there. I'm going to see if I can go back and find out for you guys. But Jordan Ross no longer in the car and is out of the server, so he definitely will not be continuing in the rest of this race.
Inside one more time, Griffin's Bend turn number 2. This time he's got a lot more overlap. It's difficult to hold it on the outside there, so Ian Ford has got the job done, got himself ahead of those 2 TTL cars. It's what he wanted to do the other lap, wasn't quite close enough, and this time he's got himself an extra car length alongside, made it work. He's up into 5th place, but with 2 cars ahead that need to pit, that will be effective 3rd place behind, no, effective 2nd place, my apologies, behind Dane Warren.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's done an absolutely fantastic job there to make that work. And would expect nothing less from Ian Ford. Fantastic racer, and has a great team behind him as well. Word on Jordan Ross, a little bit unsure. He went into the pits and never came out. So maybe he had some damage that needed to be repaired to that car that he wasn't prepared to go along with, and has opted out as Sam Sutton just still applying that pressure to Ian Ford to try and bring something back out of this. But it's going to be pretty tough to do for those TTL guys. Brady Myers, though, has been running a strong race. Unfortunate for him to lose out in those pit stop times, but you've got to make the right call at the right time to be in it to win it. And you can just see Ian Ford a little bit defensive there, coming back across to the racing line just as they get into the final part of that braking zone there, and carrying himself through the chase and onwards to see if he can run down the man of the hour, Dane Warren, who is continuing to stride ahead just up the road.
Dylan's the fastest car out on track, well, he was until this lap. On the previous lap he was, and while this battling has been going on and Ian Ford's been trying to make his way through, McMillan's just been hunting them down. This is now a pack of 4, and if Sam Sutton continues to hold up Brady Myers, then Brady Myers will have to contend with Thomas McMillan in a very short order.
We did see McMillan fall off in the second half of that stint, though. So he's really going to have to get it done quickly, as we now see Scott Solosky and Daniel Williams on screen. It should be a fairly easy job there for Scott Solosky to make it down the inside. At Hell Corner, he's going to have to maybe defend from Daniel as they come down Mountain Straight, though, and Daniel is going to go and take the outside line. Whether Scott Solosky likes it or not, whether he'll back out in the braking zone is yet to be determined. He doesn't. A little bit early on the turn in there for Daniel Williams, and wasn't able to carry as much corner speed as he would have liked. He just had to back out there. He realised he turned in just a fraction too early and had to go for another stab at it, which lost him the time in that corner. Ian Ford not getting away from these 2 TTL cars up the front. Good point you made, though, David. Dane Warren, fastest lap, 205.536 on this stint so far. And Thomas McMillan was 205.538, so just 2,000s between those guys. And Brady Myers lapping at about the 206s at the moment. So Ian Ford actually, despite passing Sam on that lap, was only 2/10 slower than Dane. So nicely done. Now Wayne Burke, who has been out 4 laps longer than anyone else, is finally in the pits. And now a move on the teammates here. Looks like Brady Myers wants to get past Sam Sutton, and so he does. Brady Myers back into a podium position, and now McMillan's looking a little bit hungry as they come down into Murray's Corner here. Not going to be able to do anything with it. We've seen McMillan use patience to his advantage throughout this race.
Yeah, exactly. So I was wondering if there would be a TTL shuffle once Ian Ford got through. It wasn't immediate, and that did not look like Sam Sutton letting Brady Myers through, but I think once Brady threw the nose to the inside, had a look, Sam Sutton wasn't going to fight it too hard against his teammate. And Wayne Burke, who said stayed out longest of anyone, freshest tyres, he's come out not too far behind this pack, just 3 seconds off You said it, 4 laps fresher tyres.
And that could really make a big difference. Not so much right now, but definitely in the closing stage of this race, probably the last 5 or 6 laps or so. That could really make a big difference. Track temperature is still 29 degrees, which is still 5 degrees hotter than when we started with this evening. So that's pretty high amount of temperature in just 40 odd minutes of race. So definitely conceivable that could rise even further, as we still do have another 13 odd laps to go here as we watch these fantastic looking TTL cars come down through the dipper there, and now down into Forest Elbow. Looking a little bit wayward on the entry into Forest Elbow there is Brady Myers. Gathers it back up and gets a nice exit though, as he stares at the back of that Evolution Racing Team car of Ian Ford. And Thomas McMillan looking at Brady's teammate Sam Sutton just behind. It's a great shot of those 4 cars there as they come down Conrod Straight. Doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to do anything. Once you have a train of cars like this, it's often very difficult for the trailing cars to really do much. The guy who's second in line generally has the best chance to do anything. Third and fourth are a little bit hung out to dry in a sense, because the man up ahead of them's got all the speed, as much speed as they do, so it doesn't really work out as well for overtaking. Ian Ford looking very...
On around?
Oh no, surely not. I don't think so, because he was...
I think... I'm not sure, but we will get a replay of what
that was, because
he's in the right spot. He's just gotten way too much inside curb. Lifted that thing up on the outside tyres. He's very lucky that he managed to stop it turning before it hit the inside wall. Fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because you're about to go on a ride.
Yeet! Wow, that was a big moment there for Wayne Burke, and glad that he kept that all together, because he could really have an impact on this race towards the end. Oh, and the TTL teammates are coming very close up the mountain. This is going to be dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. McMillan looking around the outside. Going to be tough to hold it around there. He's going to have to back way out of it and lose a ton of speed subsequently. Well, he could have been a little more patient there and played that differently to his advantage, but he'll know that for the next time that happens, should it happen, and these teammates come a little bit more close together. It looks like Sutton has actually made his way past Brady Myers as well. So those guys trading places once again. So maybe team order is not necessarily in effect here, and these guys are just racing pretty hard, and they are getting very close to each other as Ian Ford just locks up, runs very wide, very close to that wall on the exit of Forest Elbow there, and there could be another move here going on between these TTL cars, because they are looking very close. And also Ian Ford has a man just a little bit up the road, I think. Is that Brendan O'Brien just up ahead of them as well? So Brendan O'Brien might help out his man here in any way that he can. Just might, let Ian by fairly easily and make it a little more difficult for the guys behind. We'll see how it goes.
Brian had a really long pit stop, 1 minute 44 seconds stationary, and that's what's put him a lap down now, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, so very unfortunate for the big man, but big man in spirit, might I say. Fantastic guy, Brendan O'Brien. Always an absolute treasure to see. But we'll see if he helps his man out as they come down Mountain Straight here. Still going to probably be another half a lap to a lap before they catch them. But we can see that Ian Ford has not been able to shake these TTL cars much at all. And he could definitely use any form of reprieve. And that man up ahead could definitely be the man to do it. Sutton's going to go for a late move on the cutting. A little bit of contact, surely. And maybe a little bit of payback there for that bump and rub earlier at turn 2. Now, come on, guys. Let's get it back in single file there, because that is not going to work. Thank you. McMillan now looking around again. We saw him earlier looking around. And will he be able to hold patience as a virtue here and make something out of it? It's got a good entry as they come through. McPhillamy now down into Skyline, and Ian Ford holds onto that position. McMillan looking strong, very close to the rear of Brady Myers there. And a little bit of a bump actually through the cutting. Unsettles Brady, and that's going to really throw things up in the air for this run down Forest Elbow and down Conrod Straight as well. McMillan definitely in a much better position than he has been laps previous to get something done here. So we'll see if he can make something work. Ian Ford is also being followed very closely by Sutton. So a couple of moves could go on here. We'll have to see if any of that is going to come to fruition. Sutton looking for defending. Sutton going to go to the outside line. Yes, he is. Both of the white cars there taking a healthy amount of curb as the TTL guys keep it off and wave by a little bit of mechanical sympathy. Sam Sutton having a bit of a peak there and forcing Ian Ford just into a little bit of a defensive line. Not ideal for exit speed, which is what he would definitely want, and he might come under a bit of pressure once again. Sutton just not close enough, and he knows how important that exit is out of Hell Corner to get down Mountain Straight nice and smoothly. And Ian Ford might just be getting a little bit of a tow now from his team boss up ahead, Brenton O'Brien, which will be helping him immensely. Although it might not be visual, it'll definitely be substantial in the mental field in having him up ahead. And that's a TTL car just running a little bit wide there, as McMillan definitely has the pressure cooker on the heat, and he's building up a lot of intensity behind these TTL cars right now. Now, this is where it gets dangerous for Brenton O'Brien, because this is one of the fastest parts of the track. This is where true speed really shows who's fast and who's not. And these guys are going to catch him very quickly, and he does a great job to stay out of the way of all those cars. Now, unfortunately, though, McMillan is going to suffer. And Brenton, I mean, to be fair, he couldn't have done much of a better job there to stay out of the way and continue running his own race. So McMillan, as you can see, not too hindered there, and he'll be able to recover some of that gap. He still has 10 laps to make the pass on these guys, and it's pretty amazing that these guys have been driving so voraciously for the last 23 laps.
Yeah, exactly. And as Ford, Sutton, Myers, and McMillan fight, Wayne Burke was the fastest car on the circuit the lap before. He had that little mistake. He got plenty of airtime in the final corner, but he is closing it down just a little bit closer. Still got those fresher tires, and there is no sign of the battle between Ian Ford and Sam Sutton finishing here. Ian Ford's holding it to the inside a little bit to defend into the final corner. Sam Sutton had a look there earlier, maybe not seriously, but definitely keeping his car in the forefront of Ian Ford's mind.
And in the background of our shot, you can see a man coming up on a charge as Sam Sutton does go for a move down the inside. Now, it's going to be a drag race. Sam's going to have to pull in now. Ian now has the choice of which line he wants to take. He's going to park it half-heartedly on the inside line there, which is a good strategy. Sam's going to come to the outside line. He's going to have to be very keen on the brakes, though. Turns in a little bit early, and he's going to put himself in the wall, surely! There's a little bit of a rub on the exit wall there, maybe. McMillan now going round the outside, going to carry that momentum, but he has to back out of it. Just wasn't quite there. And Sutton just turned in a little bit early there to be going side by side through turn 2. And Ian Ford did take pretty much the tightest line that he possibly could have. So Sutton going to have to work his way back past his teammate and try something else out once again. But as I was about to say, while this is all going on, in the background of our shot, Wayne Burke is there, ladies and gentlemen. He is right behind these guys. He has 4-lap fresher tires. He's got fuel to the end, and he is a man who is definitely hungry for some points, and a man who I previously tipped could definitely win one of these iRacing V8 Supercar official championships, should he have the luck and the ability to complete a full season. So definitely have to watch him for the next 8 odd laps. Still plenty of racing to be done now. McMillan pretty much bump drafting Sam Sutton as they come down Conrod Straight here. And is he going to try and push him to the outside line? He's not. He's going to back out of it. So McMillan, I really would have tipped that he would have gone for something there. Nice, healthy amount of inside curb there as they come through the chase. But not able to get the move done. Brady Myers is really tucked up on Ian Ford once again, still trying to apply plenty of pressure and hopefully suck his teammate back into this battle. Wayne Burke once again, fastest man on the track out of all the cars ahead of him by, has to be said, a substantial margin, 0.4 of a second that time by, and he is now within 1.1 second of this pack, so he's going to be in this battle very quickly.
Yeah, I imagine next time down Conrod Straight, he'll be within the draft range of Thomas McMillan. We did cut very quickly to Jackson Susan Harlow and Kyle Stokes, who were battling further back in the field, and they were tucked up right behind Mullen McMullins. It was a battle for 9th through to 11th there, and this battle continues as well. So that's spread itself out a little bit, but they were all stuck together through the chase last time by. Ian Ford has Brady Myers behind him over the top of the mountain this time around, though. There's less than a car length there. Now there is, because Brady Myers gets a little bit of oversteer, Zach.
Yeah, he's looking like he's pushing that TTL Esports machine to the limit as he gets very close to the wall there. And all these cars have been absolutely charging all evening. And wow, we've had a little bit of a spike in the temperature as well. So 31 degrees track temp now is really, really quite hot. So quite a few of these guys are going to have to worry about these tyres. And Wayne Burke's looking at a really good position at the moment as well. And just having a look a little bit further back, it's like Zach Baker and Brendan Jackson, Brett Cananzi are all in a little bit of a battle at the moment. Brett Cananzi looking very hot on the heels behind those guys. Up at the front though, it's 2x2x2. And Brady Myers, he's looped it! He's lost it in front of his teammate, who's actually collected him and has to take to the inside of the chase there. Now, will he have to get a slow down? Wayne Burke's going to maybe come through on the outside of Thomas McMillan here. And he's going to go the long way round. McMillan can keep it nice on the exit there. He may just keep that position. Wow. So that's a big changer for this race. Brady Myers, too hot. Into the chase, get it on replay, here we come. So they come down into the chase, late on the brakes, went to the inside there, and just pinched it, and unfortunately got tagged there by his teammate. Everyone else managed to get through relatively unscathed. We'll get on board with you now, ladies and gentlemen. Very late on the brakes, and looks like he braked at about the same point, just tried to carry it. There was even a little bit of a bump there to Ian Ford as he tried to get that move done as well, which I think is what, in the end, actually spun him around. Having a look now at Kyle Stokes and Jackson Susan Harlow. Kyle Stokes moved over to Evolution Racing Team recently from Synergy Sim Racing, where he's been doing some good things. And Susan Harlow, and sorry, we'll just cut to Wayne Burke because he's just made a great move on the inside of Thomas McMillan, who's going to push him all the way to Skyline. Go down the inside. Come on, guys. There's contact. There's more contact. McMillan's in the wall big time, as is Wayne Burke, and that is going to kill the race. Oh, and Brady Myers comes in. This is huge. There's going to be more cars coming down the mountain in a moment. Michael Cracknell, Corey Preston. Oh, my God. That is the worst place that you could end up. And Susan Harlow as well. Oh, my goodness. Oh my goodness, guys, that is just absolutely tragic, especially for TTL Esports, and that all kicked off with Thomas McMillan and Wayne Burke. We'll get a replay for you guys. McMillan just looking a little unsettled over the top. Bit of a hip and shoulder there, but a great move by Wayne Burke, forcing it down the inside, nice and tough. And this is where it started going a little bit awry, little bit ambitious there. From McMillan
rears over the top of the hill. He tried to hold that line and he just could not.
But
and then we've seen, my goodness, they've stacked in that very difficult to see.
The second problem, though, he rolled back onto the track. He could have stayed on the brakes and stayed to the outside of the track, and that's what collected Brady Myers. So that's a really bad incident for a lot of drivers there. Shocking. So sad to see that. We'll just get a bit of a... we'll just reset and see what we've got going on now, because that's taken out a massive portion of our top 10 in this race. Dane Warren leads by 8.2 seconds now. Absolutely laughing out the front. Ian Ford for Revolution Racing Team in second. Sam Sutton takes that final podium position at the moment. So we're just watching Michael Cracknell and Corey Preston. Michael just locking up a bit into the cutting there. So Wayne Burke is now in the pits. Did Wayne Burke? He made it through. Burke is in the pits, pardon me. So Michael Cracknell is in fourth position, which is amazing for Michael Cracknell. So fantastic job for him. So Corey Preston in fifth position now, attacking like crazy, and Mullen McMullen started 16th, now finds himself in sixth position. So this is really, really mixed up the top of the grid here. And Carl Stokes, Brian Bull, and now Chris Coxhead making up your top 10. So when the mountain bites, it bites hard, and it's been hard for, I think, 4 or 5 of our drivers this evening in that one incident, which was, very unfortunate for quite a few drivers there.
Yeah, so what's that's taken out of the equation is Brady Myers, McMillan, Burke, Jackson Suslan Harlow, all removed. And that's what's elevated Michael Cracknell, Corey Preston, Mullen, Kyle Stokes, those lot into looking at a solid top 5 finish potentially.
Absolutely, and that's also, I could possibly have some, we're still very early in the season, but a nice strength of field this evening could see that really benefit Dane Warren, especially in the championship standings. Preston just lost 2 positions as he's going door to door with Kyle Stokes. We'll just stay on board here with Preston and get a replay of that momentarily for you. Just see if he's able to fight anything back. It looks like that's job done though. It looks like he's doesn't have quite as many ponies under the bonnet of that Ford Falcon as Stokes has in his ERT Commodore there. And looks like it was a little bit of a battle there with Crackers. And he just lost out there to McMullen, and just really poor speed down that down that straight there, and just lost out to Stokes. So 2 positions in 2 corners lost there for Corey Preston, who was sitting in 5th and attacking Michael Cracknell.
Yeah, but, second time he's gone in deep on the brakes into the final corner for Corey Preston. So just there's
another accident
out there. And in the cutting, thankfully track's not blocked this time. They get going. But Brendan Jackson and Brett Cananzi, both of them looking very, very damaged, and you have to assume they've come together somewhere. Zach, here's our replay.
Yeah, we'll get a replay and see exactly what transpired there. So very tight battle. I think that's Zach Baker just up ahead of these guys here in the number 20 car, who got a little bit wide on a little bit squirrely on the exit there. Cananzi's gone for the opportunistic move down the inside, and a little hard to tell. I think that was McMillan who's just been punted again.
I think that was
another
Ben
angle.
Smith.
Oh, sorry. Possibly. Car 6. I think that is McMillan. And looks. Oh, it's Hins. Oh, that's very unfortunate. So it looks like both of those guys were possibly expecting a little more track to be used by both, and they met in the middle, as we have seen once or twice this evening, and is something that happens in racing very frequently. So nothing new there. Unfortunate for both drivers. Luckily, they didn't really do too much damage otherwise in the process. We do take you now up to position number 2 and 3, because this battle is going to rage on until the very end. Sam Sutton and Ian Ford fighting for the 2nd and 3rd positions in this race. The last 2 spots on the podium, and that TTL car has held that 2nd position for the majority of this race. But just after that pit stop phase, Ian Ford, fantastic down the on those TTL cars, and has been doing very strongly ever since. Not strongly enough to pull himself away from Sam Sutton, and in fact Sutton has gone from having a bit of a gap and clawing that back to on several occasions. So doing a good job is Sam Sutton. Definitely not out of that battle. But Marlon McMullen has made his way past Michael Cracknell, and now Kyle Stokes is looking quite racy on the back of Crackers as well. He might have something to say about where he's going to finish in this race very shortly. Also, he can get a nice exit as they come out of Forest Elbow here. Marlon McMullen is probably one of the biggest movers and shakers, if not the biggest. He's one of the, for sure. Up 12 positions. The only people that can say they're doing better at the moment are Jamie McKnight and Thomas Hinz, who are up 14 positions each respectively. Another person up 12 is James Duckworth, who has moved himself from 29th up into 17th. But Marlon from 16th on the grid up into 4th at the moment. Absolutely fantastic job. And would expect nonetheless from a series champion as he is. And Michael Cracknell defending heavily here from Kyle Stokes. Fear it might be coming to a close shortly though for Crackers. Kyle Stokes has been looking very strong these last few laps, and he's going to go for a bit of an over-under here. Go for the nice exit, and he's done a great job to just slide the car very nicely but straight and just rocket himself out of hell corner there. He's going to have to go the long way around. Does look like he's just starting to creep past Michael Cracknell. He's going to have to be brave on the brakes. We've seen people turning in too early. Can he turn in? Oh, a little bit of a lock-up as he got on the initial application there and just gathers it all up. And luckily, he'll have another opportunity, hopefully, to get past Michael Cracknell. But very dicey there for a moment for Kyle Stokes.
Yeah, exactly. He locked up those rear tyres big time, and it's so difficult to go around the outside of turn 2 there. I've commentated GT3s, Pro Mazdas, V8 Supercars here, and none of those cars can make it work around the outside the way the camber of that corner is. You really want to get and hold the inside line into that corner.
Yeah, I think the only place that really works is in multi-class racing. You can sometimes get some pretty cool. Some of the LMP cars can go around GT cars there pretty nicely. Looks like Thomas Hinz has just lost a spot to Brett Cananzi now. I'm not surprised by that at the moment because Thomas Hinz did cop. He was the man we're talking about, copped a whack from, I think, who Cananzi was battling with at the time. Brendan Jackson. Hinzy copped a hit from Jackson. That car might be suffering a little bit. He might just be limping at home as we only have 4 laps remaining in this race at the moment, or 3 laps remaining now. Ian Ford and Sutton still going hard. Ian Ford looking like those rear tyres on his car are pretty well spent. We're up to 32 degrees now on track. Air temp stayed pretty much the same all throughout. This track has just been baking all morning, I should say. And track temperature has risen almost 10 degrees since we started in the server. And lap times are definitely reciprocating that. Fastest man on the track at the moment is Sam Sutton, actually, a 2:06.371. Actually, a very respectable time given the conditions at the moment. Even our race leader, Dane Warren, he's only lapping in a 2:06.7. His fastest lap is a 2:05.0. So 1.7 seconds is the difference between the fastest lap and the current lap of this race, which is a fairly substantial difference there. But it has to be said, the difference in times and versus the temperature difference has seemed to reduce slightly with this new day-night transition. So while the times are going to be extended with the higher temperatures, it's not going to probably be as dramatic as people who are familiar with the iRacing service were before. Just having a close look now at Corey Preston and Brian Borg as they come down through Skyline and through the dipper now. And Brian Borg has been hunting down on Corey Preston, has been struggling the last few laps. Seen him running wide a couple of times and losing a couple of positions, and he's actually fallen off Kyle Stokes very considerably. He's lost 5 seconds off Kyle Stokes, who he was just battling with a handful of laps to go. And he was 2 seconds slower on that last lap. And in fact, he's got to have some sort of damage to that car.
Nothing in a straight line.
Yeah, Brian Borg has just absolutely gone flying past. So, don't know if he's suffered some minor engine damage or if he's got a bit of aero on there, which is not suiting him too well. But he is traveling at
Stokes and Cracknell.
Wishing, I'm sure. Yeah, having a great battle now as Carl Stokes now switches to the inside, and I fear this is where it all comes done for Michael Cracknell. Down the inside goes Crackers, though, true to himself, holding it tough around the outside and keeping that momentum going. So Cracker is holding it tough, and he's previously an Evolution Racing Team man, now private. Sure, he's holding his heart in his mouth a little bit, trying to keep himself ahead of those guys. And Kyle Stokes, we've seen it time and time again, just a little bit early on the turn there, just rubbing the rear quarter paddle of Michael Cracknell as they come up through turn number 2. So Crackers has only got 2 laps to go now, and I'm believing more and more that he's actually going to be able to hold on to 5th position, which would be absolutely astounding for him, up from 11th place. Just having a look at Brendan Jackson and that Valkyrie sim racing car. Looking car when all the panels are on it. Unfortunately, he's missing a couple this evening, and subsequently missing a little bit of straight line speed, and has to give up positions to James Duckworth and Greg Sharp. Duckworth still plus 14 positions as he's closing in on Thomas Hins at a rate of about 2.5 seconds a lap, but with only 2 laps to go, might not be able to get there in the end. But who out of these 2 guys is going to take it home? Ian Ford and Sam Sutton. It's been a very interesting race between these guys so far, and they've only got 1 lap to sort it out, so Sam Sutton could definitely chuck something very last minute out the window here. These guys haven't been afraid to rub doors a couple of times throughout this race, so we'll have to see how this all pans out. But other than these guys, I think Crackers, Stokes, got Corey Preston and Chris Coxhead are actually very close to each other at the moment as well. That could be something that changes around for the end of this race for sure, as Coxhead is right on the back of Presto. He's looking all over the place. That car's looking very wayward. Here comes Kyle Stokes once again down the in at Hell Corner. Crackers round the outside once again. Now he has the preferred line. He can just hold it down the inside there as Coxhead does a similar, goes for a similar on Corey Preston there. Now, Kyle Stokes late on the brakes in a wide turn in, mate. Can you do it? Not this time. Gonna try and tuck in back once again and go for another spot on the track. It's not going to be easy though. Coxhead, on the other hand, has gotten it done nice and cleanly before they even get to the corner. A little bit of a look there from Carl Stokes, a cheeky look at the cutting there, but not going to be able to do anything. Michael Cracknell, very experienced V8 Supercar, and definitely wiser to a few of the tricks that these young blokes have been throwing at him this evening, and still managing at the time being. But Carl Stokes, it's got to be said, he's looking very strong this lap over the top of the hill. Michael Crack not looking so good on the turn in, really carrying a nice exit spoon. Come on, guys. Not again, not through Skyline this time, please. Carl Stokes backs out, but once again, and we'll have to try and do it. I think down into the chase. Sutton Ford now coming into the chase for the final time. It's not going to happen for them, but it is going to happen for a man this evening, Dane Warren, who has just absolutely dominated this race start to finish from flag to flag. Dane Warren takes out round 1, season 1, 2019 Racing V8 Supercars official. Ian Ford comes home in a very respectable second. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle Stokes goes through, but is he going to hold around the outside through the chase? Very close. Michael Cracknell comes back on the inside. Very close between these guys. They're going to rub it as they come down into Murray's corner. And I think that Crackers is going to be able to hold this one. Goes for an over under does Kyle Stokes. It's going to be a drag race to the line. And I think Crackers has just held on for 5th position. And what a fantastic he did. And 27 separate those guys across the line. So very good racing from all of those guys. We still have some drivers coming across the line. I don't think anyone else is really too close to each other. These guys on screen, James Duckworth and Greg Sharp, are the closest men to be having a position change, but Duckworth has been looking very strong, as has Sharp, albeit with a bit of a spin early. He's actually done a great job to recover so well from that, albeit with a little bit of a help from quite a large amount of attrition that we've seen this evening, as those guys finish a very long race this evening. For Dane Warren, it was 1 hour, 9 minutes and 57 seconds. And for everyone else, it was just a little bit long. He was the man who was untouchable, unbeatable. I'm not even sure he had to defend on a single occasion, and takes it out flag to flag for All-Star Motorsports, does Dane Warren. Ian Ford, a podium position. First time we've seen him in a V8 Supercars official race in a while for Mr. Ford. So great to see him get a good result. And another man who is starting to make a return to this series and coming back with quite some good form. Sam Sutton takes out the final position on the podium. Marlon McMullen, another man, previous champion, worked himself from 16th up into 4th. Great drive for Marlon J. McMullen, and Michael Cracknell and Kyle Stokes putting on a fantastic show to the very end, coming home in 5th and 6th respectively. Brian Borg having an eventful race, coming home in 7th, and Chris Coxhead, another mover and shaker. He started quite low in the grid, 18th he did, and made himself up into 8th. Corey Preston dropped down the order a little bit from where he started, finished 9th after struggling very heavily with his car towards the end of that race. And Scott Solosky moved himself up into 10th position. Then we had Jamie McKnight finishing in position number 11, Zach Baker in 12th. Brett Cananzi, I think he started in 13th and finished in 13th, so a net result of even for Mr. Brett Cananzi this evening. Thomas Hinz did a good job, as I thought he would, making his way through the field, albeit with a few bumps and rubs from some of his competitors. James Duckworth up a bunch of positions as well for 15th. Greg Sharp came home in 16th position. 17th position went to Brendan Jackson, who had a bit of a tangle earlier in the race. Daniel Williams, another man who got involved in a bit of biffo, came home in 18th position. Brett Loxton, unfortunate incident earlier for him, carried a bit of damage where he had to get fixed in the pits. He ended up 19th. And the last of our finishers on the lead lap, who we didn't unfortunately, see much of this evening. Elliott Smith, come back out next time, Elliott. We'll see if we can get you some more screen time, buddy. But the rest of our finishers this evening, I think Brenton O'Brien, Guy Leach, and Craig Jones were still circulating around for the end of that race. But the first of our non-finishers, with a massive incident coming through the dipper section of the track and Skyline, Wayne Burke. Brady Myers also got taken out with that one, as did Thomas McMillan, who was the man racing with Wayne, a little bit ambitious as they came through Skyline there. Jackson Suslan Harlow, another one to lose out because of that incident. So 2 TTL cars, an ASM car, and also Wayne Burke on his debut for his new team, not having the best night out. David Miller as well succumbed to some problems. Jordan Ross seemingly just decided that he'd had enough, although he could have had some damage. And Benjamin J. Smith and Riley Blythe were also out relatively early in this race, although everyone completed at least 11 laps of this race, which is definitely very good to see. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for joining us on both the iRacing Esports Network and SimSpeed TV this evening. If you could, go to both channels, smash the subscribe button, hit that little bell as well, and chuck a like on any of the videos that you watch. And also, if you have any comments about the race this evening, or if you have any suggestions as to things you'd like to see in the future, always remember to shout out a comment in that comment section. We're not going to bite you, and we're always looking for some great feedback, and also to hear what you guys are thinking as well. We will not be returning on SimSpeed TV until the new year. We won't be returning on the iRacing V8 Supercars official series until, I believe, the 7th of January. which is round 4 of this championship, which will come from the historic Oran Park Raceway in New South Wales, which is always good fun, nice little short track, very easy to make mistakes, and short little runs offer good overtaking opportunities. So definitely something to tune into. But from SimSpeed TV, we are done for the year. We wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday period for everyone, and a fantastic new year. And we look forward to bringing you tons more content in the new year, completely reinvigorated and better than ever. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much to David Haynes for joining me in the commentary booth this evening, and to Jay Kennedy for pressing the buttons all throughout the year. It's been an absolutely fantastic year for us here at V8's Online and now SimSpeed TV. We wish you all the best, and we'll see you fresh and new for 2019. Thank you very much.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.